Was 9/11 an inside job? Was it a controlled demolition? We will find out in this episode of The Unexplainable, where we are going to be looking at top 9 conspiracy theories about 9/11. Number 9. Melted steel. We have been lied to, announces the website attackinamerica.net. The first lie was that the load of fuel from the aircraft was the cause of structural failure. No kerosene fire can burn hot enough to melt steel. The posting is entitled Proof of Controlled Demolition at the WTC. Number 8. Puffs of dust. As each tower collapsed, clearly visible puffs of dust and debris were ejected from the sides of the buildings. An advertisement in the New York Times for the book Painful Questions, an analysis of the September 11th attack made this claim. The concrete clouds shooting out of the buildings are not possible from a mere collapse. They do occur from explosions. Numerous conspiracy theorists cite Van Romero, an explosives expert and vice president of the New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, who was quoted on 9/11 by the Albuquerque Journal as saying there were some explosive devices inside the buildings that caused the towers to collapse. The article continues. Romero said the collapse of the structures resembled those of controlled implosions used to demolish old structures. Number 7. It was the work of a different agency. Perhaps a more outlandish theory is that the attack was perpetrated by neither the US government nor solely Al-Qaeda, but that it was orchestrated or at least funded by a different foreign government or organization. Fingers have been pointed at everyone from the government of Saudi Arabia to the Pakistani intelligence agency, ICI, to the Israeli Secret Service, Mossad. However, the 9/11 Commission report, the final inquiry report on the incident, states, "We have seen no evidence that any foreign government, or foreign government official, supplied any funding." Number 6. Pentagon Missiles. The History Channel states that early video footage and photos were taken from the scene of the Pentagon attack did not seem to show much evidence of plane wreckage, and that theorists maintain this was evidence that the Pentagon was not struck by Flight 77, but by a missile or unmanned drone instead. However, the US government has hit back at these claims, stating that the passenger and crew remain from American Airlines Flight 77 were recovered at the Pentagon crash site, and that eyewitness reports and photographs show plane debris at the Pentagon crash site. Number 5. Controlled demolition. The BBC reports that investigations in the wake of the attack made it clear that the tower structures were weakened by the inferno from the planes and fell by the weight of collapsing floors. However, it adds, even now some people refuse to believe this version of events. A widely believed theory is that the towers were brought down in a controlled manner using demolition explosives. The Daily Express points out that some truthers believe the towers would not have collapsed in the way they did if they were hit by aircraft. In footage of the incident, the two main towers can be seen collapsing in on themselves floor by floor in a downward fashion, with the debris landing over a relatively small footprint. However, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, concluded that a very large quantity of explosives would have been required to bring down the buildings, in an operation that could not have been hidden from the public. Number 4. Tower 7. Also tied into this theory is the fate of Tower 7 of the World Trade Center, which also collapsed despite not being directly hit by any planes. The building, located next to the main towers, was hit by debris from the collapsing buildings and was damaged by fires which burned for 7 hours until its collapse later the same evening. Theorists believe that the building may have been demolished as it contained clandestine Secret Service and CIA offices, Science and Tech site Popular Mechanics reports. This theory was initially fueled by BBC News' live coverage of the event, during which reporter Jane Standley accidentally announced the collapse of the building 20 minutes before it occurred, blaming the mistake on conflicting reports from other news agencies. Number 3. United Airlines Flight 93 was shot down. According to official reports, the passengers on board Flight 93 attempted to take back the plane from the hijackers, and the subsequent struggle caused the aircraft to crash into an open field in Pennsylvania. As with the Pentagon attack, theorists state that little plane wreckage was actually discovered in the field, and the crash site itself was too small for an airliner that size, arguing instead that the plane was shot down by the military and so it disintegrated over a larger area. Number 2. Military stood down. In the 17 years since the attacks, speculation has been rife in regards to the immediate reaction of the US government during the first moments of the attack, once the planes were hijacked and it became clear a terrorist incident was occurring. In a hijacking situation in the US or Canada, Standard procedure specifies that the North American Aerospace Defense Command (NORAD) will provide an escort service when requested by the FA hijack coordinator, and will scramble jets to investigate the suspect aircraft. America seemingly had the most powerful air force in the world, but failed to intercept any of the planes that day, which theorists believe is an indication of a government conspiracy to let the attacks go ahead, the Daily Star says. However, later investigations specified that not only did the attackers turn off their aircraft's transponders upon hijacking them, making them far harder to track on radar, but that NORAD was given nowhere near enough time to intercept the planes. Number 1. The Twin Towers were brought down by explosives, not planes. Within just a few hours of the attacks on the Twin Towers, perhaps the most well-known of all the theories had already surfaced in an internet chat room. The author of that post likened the collapse of the North and South Towers to an act of controlled demolition due to the way the buildings fell so quickly and perfectly into their own footprint. After the dust had settled, theorists raised further evidence in the form of witness testimonies, citing reports of explosions being heard before the towers collapsed and debris visibly shooting out from the lower levels of the buildings. When the official report stated the towers fell due to severe structural damage caused by the planes and resulting fires, conspiracy theorists, or truthers, as they are otherwise known, argued the fires did not burn for long enough, 56 minutes in the case of the South Tower, to cause the catastrophic collapses. Early video footage and photos taken from the scene did not seem to show much evidence of plane wreckage. Theorists maintained this was evidence that the Pentagon was not struck by Flight 77, but by a missile or unmanned drone instead. They also argued that the structural damage to the building was too minor to have been made by a commercial airliner, and questioned why the plane, piloted by an amateur, was even allowed to crash into the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense.